What if the you think you are, isn't the full picture? What if, beneath the surface of the thoughts you claim as your own, there's something you've never quite understood, something hidden, yet always there? A part of you that you've pushed aside, avoided, or perhaps even feared. Where do these thoughts come from, really? And who is the one who feels them, judges them, pushes them away? These are the questions we'll explore together today, as we journey into the realm of Carl Jung and what he called the shadow. Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist, a man who saw the human mind as a vast, intricate landscape. But he wasn't just interested in the surface. Jung ventured deep into the unknown, into the parts of the psyche that are hidden from our conscious awareness, the parts that we often deny or ignore. One of his most compelling concepts was that of the shadow, the hidden aspects of ourselves, the things we do not wish to see, feel, or admit. The shadow isn't necessarily a force of evil, but rather the parts of us that we reject, the traits and impulses we find undesirable or shameful. It's everything we don't want to be. And yet, paradoxically, it's an inescapable part of who we are. Jung suggested that in order to live fully, we must confront the shadow, recognize its influence, and integrate it. But how can we possibly begin to face something that lives in the depths of our mind, in the quiet corners where we rarely venture? Let's walk through this idea slowly, as we bring it closer to our experience. Have you ever noticed a thought or a feeling you didn't expect? Perhaps a flash of anger, or jealousy, or fear. Something that surprises you because it doesn't seem to fit with the version of yourself that you want to present to the world. Jung would say that this is the shadow peeking out, uninvited, reminding you of something buried deep inside. These uncomfortable feelings, he argued, are not enemies to be fought, but pieces of ourselves that we've pushed aside, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes out of fear. It's easy to think of ourselves as a neatly organized collection of traits, kind, generous, patient. We spend years building this image of who we are, holding it up as the ideal. But the deeper you look into your thoughts and actions, the more you'll notice that this image doesn't account for everything. There are parts of you, quiet, shadowy parts, that don't fit into the story you tell yourself. The experience of the shadow isn't always something dramatic. It can be more subtle. Maybe it's the sudden burst of irritation when you're waiting in line. Or the sudden envy when you see someone else succeed. These are moments when the shadow makes itself known, even in the smallest ways. Jung argued that in these moments, when we're confronted with a part of ourselves that doesn't fit with our self-image, we have a choice: to dismiss it, to ignore it, or to sit with it. To observe it without judgment. To understand it. What would it be like, I wonder, to simply accept these moments as part of who we are? To realize that the feelings we try to suppress are not other than us, but woven into the very fabric of our consciousness. To realize that they too have something to teach us. This journey into the depths of the mind isn't unique to Jung or Western psychology. In fact, if we look eastward, we find similar ideas that speak to the nature of the self and its hidden aspects. Take Buddhism, for example. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes from the way we cling to a false sense of self, an illusion of permanence. The Buddha called this the ego, the mental construct that tells us who we are, what we should be, and how we should behave. But, much like the shadow, the ego is not the full picture. It is simply one aspect of a much deeper, more fluid experience. In Taoism, there is a concept of Wu Wei, which translates roughly to non-action or effortless action. This doesn't mean doing nothing, but rather allowing things to unfold naturally, without force. In some ways, Wu Wei is about accepting the flow of life without trying to control it, much like accepting the ebb and flow of your own thoughts and emotions, without forcing them into predefined categories of good or bad. In both Eastern traditions, there is an understanding that we are not simply the surface-level persona we project to the world. We are a complex web of energies, thoughts, and feelings, some of which we recognize and some of which we don't. Jung's shadow, in this sense, isn't so different from the idea of the ego in Eastern philosophy. It is the part of ourselves that we don't see clearly, that we may not want to face. But when we bring it into the light of awareness, when we stop fighting it and start understanding it, something shifts. We become whole. We become integrated. Let's bring this closer to home, to you. When you look at yourself, what do you see? Do you see someone who is all good, all light, all kindness? Or do you see someone who has moments of doubt, of anger, of frustration, moments you might not be so proud of? How do you relate to these moments? Are they things you try to hide, even from yourself? Or can you sit with them, quietly, without judgment? The truth is, we all carry a shadow. Every one of us. It is a part of being human, and it doesn't make us bad or wrong. It simply makes us real. Think of it this way. Imagine you're standing in front of a mirror, looking at your reflection. You see yourself clearly. You know your face, your features, your body. But if you step aside from the mirror, the image remains, but you no longer see it in the same way. The reflection is not the full picture. It's only one part of the whole. This is how it is with the shadow. It's a reflection of our deeper self, a part of us that we've distanced ourselves from. But it is still there, waiting to be recognized, waiting to be integrated into the whole of who we are. When we face the shadow, when we turn toward it with curiosity instead of fear, we start to see ourselves more clearly. We become less fragmented, less divided. We begin to experience a kind of inner peace, not because we've eliminated our flaws, but because we've accepted them as part of the human condition. We begin to see that the light we cherish exists only because of the darkness we've been avoiding. So, as we close this reflection, I leave you with a question to sit with. What would it feel like to accept the parts of you that you've long hidden or rejected? What might unfold if you stopped running from your shadow and simply observed it with open eyes and a kind heart? Perhaps, in that simple act of acceptance, you'll find a deeper, more complete sense of self. A self that isn't defined by the labels you wear, but by the full range of experience you are capable of embracing. Take a moment, now. Breathe deeply, and let that thought settle into you, quietly, like a seed planted in fertile soil. Where will it grow? What will it become? And in this silence, what is it that you truly see? Thank you for joining me today. I hope this reflection invites you to look inward with new eyes, and to embrace the full spectrum of who you are. If you enjoyed this journey, consider subscribing to What We Are, where we continue to explore the mysteries of the mind, consciousness, and the nature of reality. Until next time, may you find peace in the questions and in the shadows.